Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of From Page to Stage. I'm your host, Wendy Corner, and this podcast is for you if you're an entrepreneur. Yes, entrepreneur. You're thinking, hang on, page, stage, what's that got to do with me? Well, now, you may have a solo book out. You may have a contributory book out, i.e. you put a chapter in somebody else's wonderful work. But if you're an entrepreneur, possibly you have a blog, but you're definitely on socials, aren't you? What's that if it's not published work? So that's the author bit. That's the page bit. What about the stage? Now, you may be somebody who goes, oh, I'm shy, I'm an introvert, I can't possibly do this public speaking thing. Can you have a one-on-one conversation with somebody? Because if you can do a podcast, just like we're doing now. Blown the boundaries off that little definition, haven't I? So anyway, you're in the right place. Great. Welcome aboard. Now, I am super excited to share with you a second bite of Catana Malinowski. Sorry, I'm giving the Europeans pronunciation. Catana has been a guest of ours before, but guess what? She's got another book out. So, Catana, over to you. Give us the cliff notes. How have you got to where you are now, particularly for people who haven't seen the other episode?
Oh my goodness. Yes, so much goodness. And a conversation that you and I had about a solo book and getting it out. And I took the challenge seriously. So here it is, November. And on November 29th, my book will be published. I'm super excited. The ebook will be on the 29th and the paperback will be available starting December 1st. And I chose that number deliberately because it works out to a 3. If you add all of the numbers for that day together, it works out to a 3. And for those of us that know about numerology, there's a special meaning behind the number 3. So that was my goal on that one.
Right. Go on. And what is the significance of number 3?
It has to do with prosperity and creativity and playfulness, and just which my book encompasses. It's all of those things. So, it just, and 3 people involved. There was one person that helped me get through a creative block. There was yourself that challenged me on the get it done. It can be done. And then there was myself, the creator. And so for me, there's a lot of meaning behind the 3. Yes.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing that, because what did you say? Creativity, playfulness. What was the other thing you mentioned?
I think abundance was in there. It's part of the abundance number. And
isn't that you all over? Forget the book. That's you. Love it. Love it. Yeah. So 29th of November. Now, if I can manage to pull my finger out, this podcast goes up today, which is in Australia, the 21st of November, in the US and Canada, the 20th of November. So guys, you've got the chance. We're going to put the links in the chat. Go get it. Right, Catana, keep going.
Okay. And so one of the things that had been holding me back was myself. This is a huge opportunity that I'm forever grateful for. So just getting the book out in and of itself is a blessing in my life in every way, shape, or form, because it got me, I actually got physically sick during the process of writing and creating the book.
Okay.
Because fear was showing up. And now that I'm aware of that type of thing, I was able to go, what is going on? Oh, that's what's happening here. And as soon as I got through, I went, okay, thank you, brain, for trying to keep me safe. And I've got this. And when I got through it, I actually had a physical release. And so I encourage people to keep going. Yeah, it's going to feel uncomfortable. Some people get elation. For me, it's discomfort. And that's okay, because that keeps pushing me forward.
Mm.
So I stopped looking for perfection, the perfect book, the perfect time, the perfect pen, the perfect anything, because perfection is what I've been working to reverse. It's something that I developed as a way of controlling my life when my life was out of control.
Yeah.
So I think my body was going, wait a minute, what are you doing? Are you out of control? What's going on here? Everything's fine, brain, thank you. And so I picked up my book that I was using to monitor my senatorial campaign and the donations and even my nonprofit organization I was developing. And because that got cut short during COVID, the whole back half of the book is, blank. So I turned it over and worked from the back and wrote the first sentence.
Ooh.
One sentence is a game changer. As an artist, I know when I have a canvas and it's blank, it's that first mark, even if it's just a black dot that ends up getting covered over. The writing process is very similar. Once you get that first sentence down, this book flowed. And every time I had an input, a download of what to say, I wrote it down. I didn't care about perfection. I didn't care if I spelled it right. I didn't care if the grammar was correct. I just did it. Just write it. Just wrote the whole thing down. And it probably was about a week, and it all just flowed out. And then I started, micro editing and going back. Okay, well, change that to match that. It's a fiction book.
Okay.
Yet everything is 100% accurate to the characters and the setting. So everything is based on actual information. So the information is nonfiction, the characters are fiction. So it's really
based on real life. Well, how does Hollywood put it? Names have been changed for reasons of anonymity or something.
yes. If there is a little blue whale out there by the name of Happy, I apologize right now because I did borrow your name.
Oh, love it, love it. So, is it a children's book?
It is actually an all ages book.
Okay.
I currently have children and older adults that are waiting for their copies to reach production so that they can get them. And I couldn't be happier. I realized one thing. I had started writing children's books when I was in my 20s, late teens.
Okay.
And because I would write for my children and, read them to them. And everybody would tell me, why don't you get those published? And they felt empty to me. So as the creator, there was something missing, and I couldn't put my finger on what that was.
Mm-hmm.
After I finished this book, I realized I had to live the experiences to put the goodness in the story.
Okay. Ooh, juicy thoughts on that one. Yes, lovely. I can really feel that one from you. Yeah. Well, let's go back for a minute.
Sure.
For those who haven't seen your original conversation with me, our conversation, what prompted you to start writing in the first place?
I've always been a writer
Have
since
you?
I was in grade school, and my fourth grade teacher pointed out to my mother, creative writing is definitely one of her outlets. So I had the visual art that was very much there, and I was a creative writer. So naturally, of course, I got in a lot of trouble in school because my brain was always off making stories and doing all kinds of other things other than what I might have wanted to be doing. It got through though, because I did learn, but
Oh, well done.
it was just in my way.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I've always been a creative writer. I've always loved writing. And now it's actually coming true. This is my first solo book. So yes.
So this is your first solo book.
Yes, ma'am.
How many contributory books have you been in?
3.
3. Right. Wow. Let's pack it to them, hey? And this
Yes.
one, give us a little taster, if you will. You've mentioned there's a whale called Happy.
Yes. So Happy is a little blue whale that was born too small, and he doesn't grow. So his life is full of challenges and difficulties, and which makes it real hard to navigate, of course. But one day he learns through some very, shall we say, very challenging situations that are very scary and some a little funny, but very scary and very intense situation, that he was able to get through it. And he used his mother's advice about being calm and getting into that space of being able to make decisions from calm to help him get through the experiences. And he meets,
I think that's probably enough. Otherwise, we're going to give too much away. But that is something that I will be going to get hold of, certainly. Kindle version, obviously, because
you've got to
I've
stay
got
at
space for my books in 20 kilos. That sounds wonderful, Catana. What prompted you to write this book?
It is a book I think that I've had in the back of my mind for a very long time. And ironically, when I was thinking back to when I had first gone into high school, long story short, I got kicked out of traditional high school. And right before I did, they had asked me to pick something to, you know, focus on as a focus of study.
Okay.
And I chose marine biology. I was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I've always been drawn to water, always drawn to all of the sea life and everything that it encompasses. Every chance I get, I'm at the beach, my feet are in the water, I'm resetting. So I love everything that goes with it. Interestingly enough, yes, this was downloaded. So there was the two perfect moments where sea life came to me, and and then, how could I illustrate it? It just came as a download. I can't give any more details than that because that's just how it came in.
Perfect. Perfect. And obviously, the artist that you are, you did your own illustrations.
Yes, ma'am. I'm finishing those up as we speak so I can get everything input.
Oh, exciting, exciting. Now, Happy is a blue whale, did you say?
Yes.
Okay, why a blue whale?
I have a passion for, like I said, the sea life and whales
Yeah.
and conservation. They are gentle giants. And I think there's something about their calmness when they interact with humans.
Mm-hmm.
They're out there doing the whale watching and kayaking and swimming that has sometimes given me, heart flutters because you see somebody swimming in the ocean and there's this ginormous whale underneath them and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what would that experience be like? It can be good, it can be scary, all the things that are encompassed in the story as well. Because I grew up in this area, the setting is in Monterey Bay. So everything is true to the area, to the animals, to even where they birth, which is he was born in Baja, Mexico, Baja, California. It's because that's where they breed. That's where they go to
Because the
birth.
migration's about to start, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Audience, I'm just going to share something with you, which is shamelessly personal. I'm presently in Mexico on the Pacific coast. So I'm just down the coast, a few hours from where Catana is. And I'm excited to do a little bit of whale watching during the migration, maybe next month. Now, I've done this in Australia and they were humpbacks. So I'm thinking, are these the blues that do the migration up the Pacific coast?
Yes, we actually have everything. We
Okay.
have orcas, we have great white sharks, we have the blue whale, we have the humpback. There's a humpback in my story. There's and we have the otters. We even have a real sassy otter that likes to take people's surfboards, but that's another story. Um, you can find that one through Google. But yeah, it's so exciting because it's sometimes I think that, and I love your reflections that I get to participate in, because it actually helped fuel a lot of the things that, that inter reflection, the just thinking about all the ways that, well, how did you get to there?
Yeah. Oh, so special, so special. Okay, so we've looked a bit at your writing journey. Your speaking journey has had different flavors, hasn't it?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Care to give us a little sort of pins in the map on that one, would you?
Oh my goodness. So without realizing it, it was a boot camp that you and I both were in that brought my realization to just how many times I had done speaking and how many of those were different types of speaking. And I never gave myself credit for that. And I realized, that I wasn't the only one who had that realization. we, I think there were many of us in the room at the time that were just, wow, we don't stop to think about the small ones, the medium ones, and the big ones. And it can get lost in our day-to-day lives.
Well,
Because
the thing is that a lot of people think of public speaking, excuse me interjecting, as the traditional stage with a microphone in hand. And that can be pretty scary.
all speaking is scary. So
But if you take it down to the one-to-one, like I said in the intro, as in having a podcast, a conversation, then that's public speaking as well.
it is. It feels more personal. You feel like you're in a space, and then that first time you see it on screen being played out somewhere, you're like, oh my gosh, that space all of a sudden grows. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm out there, in a different way. And I've done, let me see, I've done print. So I've both been interviewed and put in print newspapers. I have written for a newspaper. So I've done my public speaking by actually having articles out that were in my voice, my name. I've done radio, I've done TV, I've done stage, I've done street speaking, where people don't really often think about that as public speaking. Go out and you join in a protest, or you join with you're doing a survey, or that is a form of public speaking, and we don't give ourselves credit for the bravery it takes to step out and be seen.
Absolutely. And of course, there's also things like facilitation.
Yes.
You're running workshops. That too is public speaking. There are so many different varieties.
I've done that as well. I had a summit that I invited other people to participate in with me. So I held space for others to speak, and as well as myself. So I've actually done a lot.
Well, you've also been running for senator. So
Yes.
Hustings would have been involved in that, wouldn't they?
A
Do you call
lot
them
of
Hustings?
Yeah, a lot of it is the political.
Yeah.
And I'm an independent. And for me, that means that I look at the substance of the person. I don't look at what's next to their name, because that's something different, that's not as important to me as what that person, what their values are, what their ethics are, how they treat people, what they're bringing to the table. So that's what matters most. In that space of, I worked for 16 years in the political space of political process reform. And so I was looking to make voting, the voting process equal across the board for all voters. So that was what most of that was shaped around. And the work that I did at the legislature. So I would be interviewed for those things. And Yeah, I went and I spoke on different topics in different settings on that topic. And oh my goodness, that gave me quite a bit of experience that I realized I was more nervous in small settings than I was in front of a stage of 500 people. I felt so comfortable there. And
Okay.
small groups scare the heck out of me. And my mouth goes dry. I start to stutter. I'm thinking, is everybody else hearing this, or is it just, am I reflecting this to myself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's back to that fear thing again, isn't it? And acknowledging that this isn't actually about you. This is about getting your message out to the audience. Audience, if you're listening to this and thinking, 500 people? What the? I could never do that. And you can do a one-on-one conversation. You can think about individuals within that group and focus on speaking to individuals as you would on a podcast. Now, okay, they're not necessarily going to respond verbally, but if you can see them non-verbally, they'll be responding.
And that's a good point. I like what you just brought in there, because one of the things that I was able to do was find somebody in the audience that was leaning in and speak to them. Fortunately, yeah.
Yep.
Fortunately, more of them were leaning in than not. So it made that more possible, because when somebody's leaning in, like, yes, tell me more,
Yes,
it's a natural response to give them more.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And if they're not, and they're actually doing the sitting back thing, that's when you go, okay, this isn't landing. What can I flip to that
Yes.
will get their in engagement? Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Oh, so Catana, you've had lots of experience in different settings. Audience, something else I was going to mention is all of these different settings, and I also happen to know that Catana has been involved in the law. So standing up in front of a courtroom is yet another form of public speaking. And that's an interesting one, because I've worked with TEDx speakers, coaching them to be on the actual stage once they've been they've been taken in and said, yes, we'll put you on stage. And we had one lady who was she was used to giving her presentations, her briefs in front of the High Court. Didn't phase her at all. Stick her on the red spot, and she froze, because it was suddenly about her and not somebody else in this well-prepared brief that she had written. So, audience, contextually, you can manage one, but not necessarily another, unless you change the way you think about it. Okay, it's back to those internal scripts again.
Very much.
Similar skill sets required, but they are subtly different. Sorry, Catana, I spoke over you.
Oh, no, I was going to add that. Yes, absolutely. And I recognized that one day, where just the context of the content itself, I changed from confidence to fear. And I'm thinking, okay, why is this more challenging? So, I'm going, wait a minute, I have done these things. How is it that this is, and it feels more personal because you're sharing from your heart. There's a difference when you're giving information, when you're sharing information that either you prepared or somebody else prepared, but data, sharing data and information and processes and, these formulas, that's not quite as scary, because you've got things that are backing you up. You've got all these things.
Yeah.
But when you're sharing from your heart, when you're sharing from some place that is a personal experience, I feel, for me anyway, the fear was that what I had to share would be shut down. And I know
Okay.
that was a subconscious. I
Well, that
finally,
was you going back into your experience as earlier on in life, wasn't it? Yeah.
so it felt more vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, unless we take that step back to, as you've done, reflect on, hang on, what's going on here, we can go back to default mode. And if your default mode was, shh, be quiet, children are seen and not heard, and all of those other wonderful things, I've spoken, I think I spoke to you about this on our last episode, going through school in the States, and I think a little bit towards in Canada as well, presentations are part of your curriculum, and you have to give these presentations. And sometimes people have been teased, shut down in those situations, which fast forward a few years and they're put into a position of public speaking. That's their default mode. And they go, freeze. So yeah, context is, and having that awareness, that was then. Well, this is now. What am I telling myself? Yeah, beautiful, beautiful.
I also learned that if I spoke to myself out loud and said, you know, like, thank you, brain. I appreciate you keeping me safe. I've got this. And I know that through research that I've done, that when we speak to ourselves with our own voices, so this is another form of speaking, right? Speaking to ourselves, when we do that, we can rewire our neuroplasticity to step up with it.
That's why if you do affirmations, guys, and you have affirmations that other people are reading and that you're listening to it, write it down. Get yourself to say the words and record your own voice saying it, and that's what you listen back to. Because as Catana's just explained, that is so much more powerful. Yeah.
Yes. Oh. I'm getting goosebumps because it's like a big hug when you step into it and you realize you are safe and you are enough. Yeah.
And the thing is that other people need to hear your message.
Yeah.
Because you've gone through the minefield and you've trodden on a few, and you want to be able to show people where they are so they don't get blown up as well, because it's painful going through all that blood.
Yes. Knowing you're not alone, knowing you're not alone, and you're not allowed to do that anymore.
No.
We're falling.
Okay, audience, just a quick aside. I've had a couple of falls and Catana knows all about it. So yeah, carry on.
Oh my goodness, I lost my thought.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's just so juicy, these things that when we give ourselves a moment to reflect and see where we've done well, because we don't often give ourselves credit. And that's one of the things I do called acknowledgements. And I learned that from somebody else. And these acknowledgements, even a small one. So if for you that day, I'd suffer with chronic pain. So sometimes just waking up and moving is a challenge. If I give myself credit for the fact that I got up and I still managed to do anything.
Yes.
Again, that's more affirmation, and you're writing it down, and so I do 5 gratitudes and 5 acknowledgements every day, or I work at doing it every day. Some days get too busy and it gets lost in the shuffle, but generally speaking, it's such a wonderful practice, because then you see where you're making headway, and every step forward counts. It doesn't matter how big or how small. Every step forward counts. I started with a sentence. Just a sentence. Actually, I guess it would be, I picked the book and said, it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. I can show you just how imperfect it was. So here's, I have my screen on.
We can see the tabs on it.
Yeah, it's
the tabs you were pointing out. Yes. The joy, of course, is it's a green colored book, which sitting in front of a green screen. No,
it's not going to show up. It's tattered. The binding is coming apart, and that was okay. And I think for me anyway, and for other people that get into that, it's got to be perfect. When is the perfect day? When is the perfect time? The perfect time, I saw in a video, they said the perfect time was 20 years ago.
Yes.
The second best time is now.
Yeah.
So true.
It is. It is. And I am super excited that you've got your first solo book out next week. Brilliant. Brilliant. Is there something, I mean, you've kind of given us a bit of a taster of it, but I'm wondering if, as a special for our audience, you can give us a little something. It doesn't have to be now, but in terms of something that we can maybe get a taster of it as a free gift.
Absolutely.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Absolutely.
Audience, if you're not familiar with this podcast, why not? Anyway, sorry. Show notes. The show notes are dynamic. So that means that when lovely authors like Catana come back to me and go, I've got a new book coming out. That's why she's on again. But also I will go back to the original episode and update it and go, oh, look what she's got now, just in case somebody's seen that but hasn't caught this one yet. And then there's a social splash. So in those show notes for this one, we will include any extra links that Catana cares to give us. Specials for you. Just saying. Love it. Okay. As we're winding up, my love, have we got any words of wisdom to share?
Just do it. I hate to say it. I hate to be so cliche, but it is a matter of just do it. If you have any passion, it doesn't matter if it's cooking, it doesn't matter if it's sewing, it doesn't matter if it's crocheting, it doesn't matter if it's drawing, whatever it is, whatever your passion is, step into it and just do one thing. And I feel like that opens the door to I picture as an artist, I'm envisioning you open that door and you run out into this field of purple flowers and lavender, and it's just this beautiful scenery. It's warm, it's loving, and the possibilities are limitless.
And you've got the wonderful smell in the lavender field as well. Oh. Mm. There you go, audience. Visualization. That is another very powerful tool. If you are about to get on stage, or long before you actually get on the stage, envisage yourself doing it.
Mm.
If you do have an old-fashioned stage, I say old-fashioned, you know what I mean, the old-fashioned notion of a stage, if you can get there ahead of time, preferably 24 hours ahead of that date that you're actually doing the presentation, go in and feel what it's like of the energy. Now, if you're speaking in, say, a hotel, they may not have the room set up for you, but at least get in there and feel, how much energy do I need to project? You won't have to project your voice because these days everybody's got a microphone. But how much energy do I need to bring to fill this room? And then you can go and do your visualization of you on that stage, filling the whole area with your special energy. Just gone goosey thinking about it now. I highly recommend that you do that, because you will find that then you can see yourself, you can feel yourself, you can feel your energy going out to the room, and actually also witness the applause at the end of it. You know, standing ovation. Yes. And all those happy, smiling faces that you have made a difference to. Thank you so much for sharing that.
May I add one more thing?
Please do.
So I just read my story to my granddaughter for the first time, one of my granddaughters. And I got all the things that I was hoping for with the story, the reach that this is an 8-year-old child.
Okay.
And the leaning in and the and the ahs and all the juicy stuff. And I got the standing ovation at the end. And it just warms my heart because I'm getting the same response from people that are 70 years old as I'm getting from somebody who's 8 years old. So for
Oh,
me, it's yeah, this is special. And I'm looking forward to the more that's going to come with it. And that's a secret.
as you say, it's the first step. You've written that first sentence. What will 2025 bring you?
Oh.
Ooh. Well, you did mention there might be another couple of books in the offing.
Couple of books, couple of additional things that go with the story that are designed for all of the age groups. Yes.
Oh, I'm so excited with you, Catana. So excited. Audience, these books are available as Christmas presents. Just saying. You know, sort of buy one for you and buy one to give away. Oh, exciting, exciting. So Kindle is out on the 29th. Paperback is out on the 30th of
First,
November.
December.
Sorry, first. Give yourself a breather for a day.
Yeah.
Right, got it. Thank you so much, Catana. Have I missed anything off?
No, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I enjoy your energy. I love all your guests. They're so fun. And you are a wonderful reminder that our voices have power. Our words have power.
They certainly do. They certainly do. Oh, Catana, thank you so much for sharing with us your From Page to Stage Mark II. Watch out next year, guys, because there'll be at least one more.
Or 4.
Or 4. I said at least
Or
one more.
5.
We'll hold it to it, won't we? Hey? Yeah. Thank you so much, Catana. For now, bye from us.